Take her to 2,000.
Okay.
We got good fuel pressure. Oil pressure, well, our fuel pump's still on.
They shoot you off. That's way back there. Fuel pump off, check pressure,
Yeah.
set fuel computer.
Fuel pressure's still good.
Okay.
Oil pressure's good. Suction, good. Goes left. Dropped it. Back. Dropped it. And came back. Got KOWB. Yep. Take her back down to 1,000. Alright.
Alrighty, so now we can go out and around to our hold area and call for taxi. Yeah. But since this is a crossing taxiway, like if something big came across, it seems that whole short line's so close. Yeah, just all other hold short lines, not so much, but this one just seems to be, because look at that one, look where the one for that one is, back there, and ours is way up there. It's just weird, so I tend to stay a little back, so we'll try to remember that.
Yeah.
No big deal. Legally, we just can't go past that line.
Yep.
Alrighty, so we need to call for permission and taxi for takeoff out to the
West. I guess we shouldn't say anything about runway yet. See what they say.
No, right. We know what we think is best for us. Now, they're going to give what's best for them. If we don't like what's best for them, then we'll request something else. Okay? But in most cases, like, let's say he gives us 1-8. We'll be like, wait a minute, the wind's going the wrong way. That's tailwind. We'll ask for 3-6. Now, that's why we say our preferred runway, is just in case he gives us something goofy.
Alright. So,
at accelerated taxi, sorry, for takeoff to the west.
Owensboro ground, this is Cherokee 6950 Whiskey. We are at XL ramp, ready for takeoff to the west.
Taxi. For takeoff.
Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, Owensboro ground. Runway 36 taxi. Winds 030 at 7, altimeter 3002, and runway 36 taxi via taxiway Charlie, cross runway 24.
so cross 1 with 24.
Charlie, cross 24.
Cross 24.
Charlie, cross 24, 6950 Whiskey.
Okay, that's Charlie, and remember it crosses the runway down there. All right, so let's go.
He gave us clearance to pass, go
through 24, yep. We don't have to stop when we get to it.
FA 718 Owensboro ground, proceed to glass level via runway 36, report when off.
And this one's always the worst because it's so long. But technically, we should always make sure we use the full available runway, nevertheless, even though it's significantly longer than we need. But in case there's an emergency or something happens, we have the most available runway in front of us.
It'd be better to have runway than grass, I guess.
Yeah, they always say the worst runway is the runway left behind you.
A17, correction, just hold runway 36.
It's,
Hold short of 36, runway.
You know, not illegal to take off at an intersection, just, let's face it, if nothing happens, no big deal. Something happens, extremely frowned upon.
Yeah. Well, I take the chance.
We teach you guys to be as safe as possible and follow those best guidelines, recommended guidelines. Unfortunately, we spend the next 4 minutes trying to get a mile away. A mile and a half, really.
Yeah, it's 8,000 feet, isn't it?
Yep, and we're only about 1,000 feet away from the other end, so we got about 7,000 for the taxi.
Go to the left.
Yep, stay left and across.
NFA 17, you can proceed on runway 36 to the glide slope, report off.
Roger, via 36 to the glide slope, report off. 718.
Someone landed. That will slow down just a little bit, so just use your brakes to knock the speed down and then let it start rolling, because our speed was starting to get pretty fast. One thing about a tricycle, they don't steer very well when they go fast. Plus we don't want to take off.
Ground 718 is clear, 36.
NFA 17, roger.
Yeah, if that does get cold, the plugging rag is right there. That one won't shut off completely.
Okay, ground pipeline 65 Kilo Charlie's clear.
Pipeline 65 Kilo Charlie over ground taxi 2-minute American Jet via taxiway Charlie and Golf.
Charlie Golf.
Things starting to get a little fast again, so you just pulse the brake back down. Bring it slow, it speeds up. Because you're down to 960, the engine has warmed up, so you could probably get it down the low 800s, and that'll help with that speed as well. But you just don't want to drag the brakes non-stop, and honest truth, you may not be able to get the power low enough to keep the speed. So instead of, just like going downhill in a car, you really shouldn't drag the brakes. You should slow speed up. Otherwise you just overheat everything. Alright, make sure to stop before that line.
Got a little crooked.
Yeah, a little off center. We'll work on that. Alrighty, so now we do our before takeoff so we can get ready to go. And the only other thing is, ground's done its job, right? So the first thing you want to do is switch and then run through your takeoff list.
Yeah. In case he's trying to tell me something.
Yep, in case ground or tower needs you.
Alright, verify trim set. Oil temperature is good. Flaps go. Takeoff speed is 65. Transponder on altitude. Strobe, no strobe. You're set. Fuel pump is on. Alright. Now we're at Owensboro Tower.
Okay.
Cherokee 6950 Whiskey. Ready for takeoff?
Now we're ready for takeoff.
Alright.
Ready for takeoff, and he should see ground. If he did his job, ground fed him that they already know we're going to the west.
Alright.
Owensboro Towers, Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, ready for takeoff.
Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, runway 36, left-turn approved, clear for takeoff.
I just say
Clear for takeoff, yeah.
Clear for takeoff, 6950 Whiskey.
All right, so now release the brake. We're going to go out onto the runway. And remember, takeoff. First we'll get lined up, make sure we're on and rolling. Then you'll pull a little bit back so that you know the plane will ride. You don't want a full wheelie, but you definitely want some light front end. Steer it straight. We get to the green triangle, lift it up. Now last time, a couple times I told you just bring it to a tree line, but the last time we talked about where was that horizon for the 95-mile-an-hour climb. It's kind of, for me, it was here. So that's kind of our goal. We're going to set to that.
Okay.
Obstacles clear, fuel pump off, and we always phrase it that way, because some airports will have obstacles. So that's how you know when it's safe to turn it off. All right, so we're lined up, full power, everything it's got. Steering down the center line. Okay, make sure good. Feel how you can feel it kind of real light. Keep it on the center. And green triangle, there we go. Bring her up. And we're starting our climb. And then we know we'll get about 90 if we let the horizon kind of right through there.
Yeah.
Notice the speed's building itself up, looking good. Once we get up here and we get a safe altitude, look around. Do we have any obstacles? We're still trying to get it out climb. Doesn't look like it. Think we're safe, so fuel pump off. 800 feet, which is actually 400 foot AGL. If you remember, we started at 400.
Right.
That's our safe altitude for our turn. We just set that. It's not a government thing. It's just us. We've made our 800. Now left turn to 270. Now today's warmer than the last day we flew, so now our performance is going to be a little less because the air's a little thinner.
Right.
So you may see that that angle that worked when it was really cold might cause you to fly a little slow because the plane's not able to perform as well.
All right.
So you might have to adjust your angle slightly for that new, the hotter air. Trying to keep, remember, climb speed's 95. So your goal is use the known spot that you know should be close, and then make minor adjustments trying to keep 95.
All right.
All right, so we made it out off the runway. So our next goal here is fly 270, climbing the 3,000 feet, and clearing Owensboro airspace. So you can go to the map, and we can double check. And we're trying to clear that ring, that magenta ring, and then what we, or not magenta, blue. And then if we hit the circle, it'll put track mode on. So it puts, you know, everything right in front of you. It tracks your plane and everything in front of you. Now I notice, I think it's the trim that keeps, are you fighting the trim?
A little bit.
Don't fight it. Go ahead and readjust it now to make it better for today's conditions. The trim we use for takeoff is just where we think will be pretty close. After you're up and going, don't be afraid to adjust it to make flying a lot easier.
Is it just me or does the plane feel wobbly?
It's windy out.
Yeah.
Thermals, the sun's out finally. Thermals, little bit of wind. Not wobbly, it's just bumpy out.
Right.
It's very consistent with a, this is actually pretty light chop. This is pretty light. I would say by 3,000, I hope we'll get out of it. Generally, thermals extend this time of the year to about 2,2,500. Should smooth out, but it may not. Looks like you got a little lefties there. Keep veering to the left, so you want to try to make sure to think about it. Say, okay, I tend to want to go to the left, so I'll try to feel like I'm leaning a little to the right. That might help. Okay, leveling off will be nose down, power down, trim nose down.
Right.
Nose down first, which you know how far because we worked on level flight, which is the dash, you know, the horizon's about this far above the dash. That's first step. Don't cut your power back until you get that step done. Then power to 24, and then trim as a final set. And we're still a little high. I notice we've been hovering around 80, so might bring those a little bit lower. Doesn't matter though, we're about to level off. So start about 50 feet early, nose down. Power down. 24. And doing good fighting your trim because you know your trim is set for climb, so you hold it down. I can't see any ground, hold it down, get down around low 24s into upper 23. There we go, and now trim. Always think about everything we're doing as a phase, and then we got to complete that and move on. Like our first phase was take off and clear the pattern.
Right.
Then it was climb at 95, 3,000 feet, level off, all while waiting to clear the dotted blue, which it looks like we just did. I just turned your track off. All right, so we're good. So next is communications. We got to tell them we're clear of the airspace and we'd like a frequency change. Because we've already established with the tower, it's just tail number 6950 Whiskey, clear the airspace with like frequency change.
6950 Whiskey, clear the airspace, request frequency change.
Cherokee 50 Whiskey, freak change approved.
Have a good day. Or thank you is always the best.
Thank you, 6950 Whiskey.
Now, we will start talking to Owensboro next time, not today, so we're just going to go to a blank spot so there's nothing to listen to.
Right.
So I still like me and you getting comfortable with each other before we add in that extra communications, because it'll be nonstop radio chatter over me and you trying to talk to each other, which is very common. It's just, it's good for us to get a couple flights in without it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're starting to climb a little bit. I've got that. I can see it here, I can see it there, and I can see it, but more importantly, out there was a little high. All right, so last time we ended with some good 30-degree turns and then flap effects. So let's just do 2 quick 30-degree turns. Let's do our 30 degrees of bank. Let's go south, left turn to south, utilizing our 30 degrees of bank and trying to hold altitude. Alright, good. Don't see anyone this way. Let's make a right turn. Let's head back to 270 to the right. Now just watch your altitude. You tend to let that nose drop, kind of pull a little bit, make sure it stays up. Alright, now just to reissue our practice area, the smokestack's a great corner back there. The Green River, that's going out to the Penny Rail Parkway, so we got plenty of room going that way. Audubon, right here, cutting across the Ohio River. And up there is going to be Owensboro, where the Ohio River kind of curves up, and we're trying to stay out of there. That would be also that magenta ring. That's kind of our box here. We're trying to relay ourselves in. And then obviously staying away from Owensboro a little bit. Technically, we're supposed to try to call them about 10 miles out. So we're trying to stay, you know, at least 8 to 10 miles to this side. That's just a courteousness. So we have to call them by the dotted line. But technically 10 is the proper place, so to give them a heads up to work you into the system if it is busy. Alrighty, now we can move on. Now one thing we did was flap effects and kind of flew around slow, discussed a little bit about slow flight very vaguely, but we didn't get high enough to really do slow flight. So that's where we're going to start today. It's full on slow flight, minimum controllable. Now, before we have you do a maneuver, I always demonstrate so you can sit back, look, see what we're trying to do, and then we'll walk you through a few. So I'm actually going to take the plane, and you're off the plane. Now, that brings us to our next very important thing, is who is in charge of this airplane? And the answer is you. You're in charge. Unless you hear me say those words, my plane. Otherwise, you see me help. I like to help without saying, because sometimes it takes so much to talk. I can just go, boom, and you go, oh, okay, that's what I should do. I'm not taking the plane away. I'm not trying to fly it. I'm trying to just help you maintain your flight. it doesn't bode well if I'm doing this all the time, or if you don't know what's going on. You should always know, if I'm up here, I'm just giving you some help, but you're in charge, you're making those flights, and never give up. No matter you think you're losing it, don't give up. The only way I know how well you're actually doing is by seeing what you can do, okay? So there should never be a question when you go in, I didn't know who was flying. You. Yep. I will try to stay off this thing as much as possible. Alrighty, so I've got the plane. Now the first thing we're going to do today is slow flight. The long word is minimum controllable slow flight. We just call it slow flight. Now the first thing, before we can practice in an area, we have to clear the area with what's called an FAA clearing turn. We have two options. Well, you have multiple options, but basically it's 180 degrees worth of turning. You can choose to do it all at once, a half circle in one direction. A lot of times we'll use that. If we're all the way to the paint route, we'll just turn around. We like the way we're going. 290s is always good. 90 this way, 90 back. You could get very creative and go 25 this way and 145 or 155 this way. I mean, we basically either do 290s or 180, but theoretically it just has to meet the 180 degree requirement. So before I can show you slow flight, I need to clear the area. Now I've got the power plant, I got the penny rail right there, so the 180 probably bode well for our current position. Now, when you're doing clearing turns, I want to make sure you're looking for traffic. And the way I know you're looking, when you bank to 30 degrees, you can tell I'm looking for traffic because I'm doing this, right? I'm getting out there. I'm looking out that way, kind of looking behind the wing, looking out here, looking this way. Very key. We are from day one trying to get you not only to be a pilot, but to get a pilot's license. And there is a difference. To get a pilot's license, you got to pass a check ride. And we want to make that as smooth as possible. And one easy thing for that is don't make the examiner guess what you're doing. Like if you're just sitting here like this doing a turn, he has no clue how well are you looking for traffic, nothing. But if he sees you leaning forward, looking around him and doing this, he's going to know exactly what you're doing. And those little things make the check ride go so much smoother. They're much more confident in you and your skills, just by the little things. Also, when you make a major mistake, they'll let you redo it because you look so professional and like a good pilot. Now, we do not have to do a clearing turn before every single maneuver, just once we get in this environment and we want to practice in it. Alright, so I did the one for today, so we don't have to do another one. Alright, so first thing we do try to do is pick a good heading and altitude. We try to maintain it as best we can in the beginning, where it's not a main focal point, but it does give us an aiming point. So 3,000 feet, I'm gonna head east. Alright, so very first step of every single maneuver, even though we just did a clearing turn, is look for traffic. I call it the wingtip nose wingtip. Once again, make it evident. Wingtip, scroll through the nose, and then out to this wingtip. No one's in our main environment. Alright, so it's going to go power to 15 or less. It's almost idle. Power to 15 or less. If you do nothing, the nose dives. Hold because we're slowing down. Once you're in the white arc, which we always are, 1, pause. 2, pause. These are obviously flaps. 3, pause. 2,000 RPMs. And trim full up, basically. There is a stop, so you just trim. It's almost to the full. There's the stop right there. And I'm in slow flight. As long as you do the steps, the plane will go right into slow flight. Now what did I do? I held heading and altitude decently. Again, not our focus point, just a goal. What is our bigger goal that we're working on? It's procedures. Every maneuver we do, slow flight, power off, power on, stall, steep turns, none of them are directly something you do in everyday flying, but each has little components or procedures or cycles that focus on other things. Specifically, slow flight is like 80% of slow flight is landing. There's a lot of concepts that come out of this for landing, let alone the landing flare is going to be at this very slow speed. Plane's got no control, so we need to fly around. You get very comfortable this way because the next time you're going to see it is when the ground's right there and you can really jack something up. Now, what am I doing in slow flight? We breached on this a little bit last time. Do you remember what pitch is managing?
It's airspeed.
Airspeed. Our goal is 60. We actually pick 60. That's what we're going to try to hold because 55 is our stall. I'm a little slow. I lower the nose a little bit. Remember what's going to help us maintain altitude?
Throttle.
Throttle. I'm flying like this. If I add throttle, it's going to pull me up. I reduce throttle, it's going to drop me down, right? So if I was low, because I'm trying to hold 3, I'm low, right?
Yep.
I can add power and come in. Now you notice I said power to 2,000 in the slowdown. Like we powered down, then we went to 2,000. That's just your starting throttle. Because you gotta, you know, as you're slowing down, if you don't add the throttle back in, you just either stall out or fall. You go to 2,000 to start. Then then you ignore this. I actually never look at this again. This becomes my throttle, my RPM gauge. I'm going down. I need more RPMs. So this, obviously those are RPM gauges. I don't even look at that one. The 2,000 was just a good starting point, and then pitch over there. The other thing is turns in slow flight we'll work on getting comfortable. What we did learn when we're below 75, we do half normal turns as our goal. 15, so let's say I want to go north and starting to get close to Owensboro. I'm going to come into 15. Now what are we looking for here? Constant bank. We're learning that we can hold 15 knot in, out. That's what a lot of people do, in, out. Notice also normally we pull up in a turn. Well, we don't pull up, will stall us, so we add power in a turn. See, I already rolled out. I didn't hold a good turn. Shame on me. I'll go north here, up towards the river. Okay, so that's slow. That's kind of in it. Now let's get out of slow flight. So we're going to accelerate back. This system of getting out of slow flight, I mean, it relates to a lot of different things. It's your acceleration procedure. Okay, so I'm going to accelerate. Well, that means I'm going to go flying that way. So guess what I should do real quick? Just double check for traffic up ahead. Just make an extra gander because my nose is up. So realistically, I can't see if someone's right in front of me without sitting up a little bit, double checking. Full throttle, nose to level flight, or it's just going to climb out. Flaps out nice and smooth. Hold the button. Smooth. Now I am pushing down. That trim is full up. It wants to go up. I'm fighting it. Now that I have some time while the plane builds speed, I'm going to adjust trim. But listen to your engine. You can tell, just like a car, when it's up to speed and it's going to start to unwind, I like to call it. You see RPM's coming up. So now I know it's time. Reduce power. Around 24. Finalize my trim. And I'm done and out of slow flight. Okay? Your airplane. So that means you got it back and it's all yours again. All right, you ready? Yeah. I'm going to talk you through it. So step 1 of every maneuver is a wingtip, nose, wingtip. Double check. Wingtip, scroll out front, then sweep out to the other wingtip, and I do not see anyone, which will be a tiny little black speck is about all you'll see. Next up, power to 1500 or less. It's okay to go a little under. You're just trying to get a pretty decent power down to get slowed down. Now hold that nose up because you're losing your lift. Need to hold, increase with angle. Then right to the flaps because we are in a wide arc. Representing flaps, 1. Now as you pull the flaps, look where your nose goes. Yep, 2 flap. Hold that nose up. 3rd flap. Power to 2000. Hold that nose up. Manhandle it. Use your muscles. And now trim, trim, trim. Everything it's got should be about what you need. There you go. Now, we're trying to hold 60 with pitch, so we're a little slow, so we got to drop the nose. Now we're descending, so we don't look at this, we just know we need to add some power. Then as you practice this over and over, you'll get a better feel for how much power reacts in what way. So I want you now to try to keep yourself flying at 60 and holding 3000 and using these things. We'll spend a lot of time flying like this and really getting that called pitched airspeed, power to altitude. I call them, those are basically 2 out of the 3 most important relationships in the airplane. You just got to know pitched airspeed, power to altitude. Those are the 2. There's a 3rd one that we discuss later on. And all the time trying to hold altitude, or heading as well, which is always fun. Now nothing right now, are we, like I said, headings, altitudes, those aren't our main focus points, those are our goal points. Our focus point initially is your relationships, pitch to airspeed, power to altitude, that you're making those adjustments accurately. And two, the procedure of getting in and out. Now obviously right now we're working on the relationships. A little bit later we'll work on the actual procedures in, out, in, out. Typically that's the second day of working it. First day we really focus on that relationship. So I get bored sitting here while you fight the airplane.
Feels a lot different.
It is a lot different, but you'll spend, I mean, landing right here. You're slow, you're approaching a runway, you're trying to keep it over, so this has to be second nature, you know, the ability to manage an aircraft in these type of aerodynamic situations. Alright, let's try one of those turns. We're getting closer to the Ohio, so let's make a left turn, 270 again. We use a lot of our cardinal headings, it just makes the boxes easier. Number just 15, looking good. Almost better than mine. I think I was talking too much. Love your left turn, don't you? Slow and fast. Everyone does. Alright, now we're going to go back to normal flight. Okay? So, first step was kind of peek up in front of us, make sure we're not going to accelerate into anyone. Alright, then full throttle. And you get that nose down so it doesn't climb. Okay, good. Now you take your flaps out in one smooth movement. Just keep your nose down though. Then, trim, 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 trim. As the plane speeds up, kind of listen for it to tell you she's back to speed. Then power to 24-ish. And finalize your trim. Alright, let's get back to 270 heading. Not bad. Alright. Oh, watch your level flight. Can't see the ground, can you? Don't fly with it, trim. Push it down. That's going to be closer. And then trim. Remember, trim doesn't fly the airplane. Trim just helps you fly. So you always fly first, and then trim any pressure that you consistently have to fight. Alright, good. Let's do it again. So step one is to look for traffic. So wingtip, nose through to the wingtip. Okay. Power down 1500 or less. Good. Hold the nose up. There you go. White arc. We are. Flap. Pause, flap. Pause, flap. Power back to 2000. And then trim. Now, pitch to hold 60 miles an hour. And power to maintain 3. There we go. See, I always say it's kind of like a woman. If you do everything in order, they tend to listen. So if you do the plane, everything in order, it tends to listen. But when you get out of order, it can get pretty screwy on what the plane does. You never know what the outcome will be. All right, let's go back to cruise. So we're going to go and look in front of us, make sure we're not going to accelerate anyone. And then we're going to go full throttle. Keep the nose down. Flaps coming out. Hold the nose down. Now trim, 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 trim. Then power adjusted. And final trimming. Make sure you can see that ground in front of us. Alright, we just climbed a little bit as we finished it off, but not too bad. Alrighty, now there's the city of Henderson. Kind of near that airspace. Why don't we try south? Let's make a left turn, head south. Trying to hold. Now you notice how you got about 200 feet high? Reduce a little throttle, bring the nose down. Don't be satisfied. Again, I'm not like hounding on you, but to develop good altitude control is making sure you fix when you are off. Too many people just like, oh, I'm 200 feet high, okay, and they never try to get back. I'm okay with 200 feet high, but when you see it, just kind of reduce power, come down, and then before you know it, you will do it without thinking about it. You know, it's kind of like your eyes will see it, your hand will move, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't even think about doing that. It just auto-reacted. Alright, we're going to get into slow flight one more time, then we're going to move on. Alright. Okay, so I see you got yourself back to 3. One thing, when you level back off, be careful not to pull the nose back up too high. That's common across all new pilots. They'll go down and then they pull it right back up. You got to lift it slightly, but not that much. Alright, so wingtip, nose, wingtip, check.
Clear.
Good. Power down to 1500 or a little less. Hold that nose up. Flap, pause, flap, pause, flap. Power to 2000. Trim, 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 trim. Very good. Alright, we're going to go back to cruise. So double check out in front of you. And then full power. Lower the nose, flaps out. Hold that nose down. Finding that gap. Trim, trim, trim. While you're holding that gap. It's all about that visual gap. It's not here, it's out there. Any transition is always best done out there. Too many other things to do other than look at gauge. As you get all your you can get bank, you can get pitch, all right out front. As much as we point at the gauge and this is that, it's so frustrating because that's like 20-30% of your visual reference. Yet we talk about it constantly. It's the only way to know if you're actually there or not. Alright, good, good. Now we're going to move on to something known as a power off stall. Also known as an approach to landing stall. Okay, power off or approach to landing. So once again, brand new maneuver. I get to demonstrate it for the first run, so my airplane. Alright. So I've got the plane. Okay, approach to landing stall. There are many reasons to do the stalls. I mean, getting out of the stall correctly obviously is a big important point, But the goal is that you start to recognize the feel of the flight controls, the sound of the air, the sound of the engine, the slushiness of it, so that your brain focuses on that, and when you get close to a stall, it notices it due to the other signs. It goes, wait a minute, the end result when I feel this is stall, and it triggers you to react before the actual stall, even though we do stalls regularly. It's a very common, regular maneuver we're going to do. All right, so approach to landing stall. What's in your maneuvers book has to be changed. It's inaccurate. I don't know why I'm dragging my feet. I rewrote it. I just ain't published it into the maneuvers book yet. The new examiner, which he's not so much new anymore, I've been using him for almost a year now, he likes to see it a little bit differently. Everyone's got their own technique. He's got this as a true approach to landing. So what that means is, I'm coming up to the power plant. I'm going to head east. We are going to set up like we're on a landing approach. Instead of just going right for a stall, what I used to do, he has us do an initial step before it. It's pretty simple. It's just a small change in the procedure. So, step 1, wingtip. Nose, wingtip. Okay? I'm going to pick my altitude heading just to kind of know which way I'm kind of going at. Now, it's a stall. A stall is nothing but altitude loss. So we just got a starting point and a finish point. But you'll see how we use that. No traffic around. First step is like you're going into slow flight. Power to 1500 or less. 1 flap, pause, 2 flap, pause, 3. So far, so good. Next step, drop the nose to an imaginary runway. Don't dive. Notice how I just lowered it slightly? Imagine that road's a runway out there. Count to 2. 1, 2. So I've made a 2-second descent at that imaginary runway. Kill the engine. Bring the nose up gradually, first up to the horizon. You're going to notice I'm going to match the horizon. That's going to transition to quite slow airspeed. I'm pulling. I even got the light. Now the plane, to stall, I have to force it. I pull back real hard. Feel the buffeting, feel that shaking, that's the stall. Now I let the nose down, back to my runway, dead ahead. Stall's over. A stall is exceeding critical angle of attack, meaning angle of attack is too high. As soon as you deuce inside of that, you're flying again. Airspeed's up, done deal. Okay? Now, the next step, and I'm going to show you just one more before I do this. If I was to do it again, I do my 2-second descent, I pull it to the horizon, I keep it up there. I just keep putting pressure. Red light goes off, pull a little harder, and right there, feel it? It really comes out the second time. Okay? Now I'm down. Notice I didn't shove down. The plane's balance puts it down. After you go in and you get your airspeed back, next thing is we're sinking fast. Full power, level off. That stops the descent. Now, why haven't I started climbing? I got all this drag. If I pitch for the climb, I'm going to slow back into the stall. So I'm going to take the drag out. Now, guess what I get to do? Pitch for the climb. Now, where was a normal climb? Horizon about right here. You pitch for that, and you climb all the way back up. We started at 3. I'm going to end at 3. Now, you notice we lost 1,000 feet. Remember when we were talking about our minimum safe altitude for practice and such? I said, you know, a stall is, you know, we don't do spins, so a stall would be the worst. The first one was pretty easy, but you feel a secondary stall, meaning if you go into a stall without full recovery, it gets quite abrupt. Now, once again, recognizing a stall. The light is not a stall. That's the approaching stall. It's kind of that shake, and the nose actually drops on its own. If you pull back, it'll snap into a really abrupt stall. You kind of, if you push down, you're going to throw us into the windshield. It's kind of a very soft, the nose goes down and you just relax slightly. You don't push down, you just relax about that much and it comes down. Okay, now I'm going to climb back up. I'm going to do one full speed. I was just showing you, you know, that stall, how it feels, but I'll show you the full speed maneuver because we will not lose 1,000 feet. Plus we won't sink as long. I was kind of talking through it.
What would be the nominal?
Well, generally you lose about 200 feet in a on-purpose stall, meaning you're ready for it, ready to come right out and fix it. That's why I said it's easy to lose 500 if you're not ready for it, because you know it's 200 feet. Now we'll drop 100 to 200 feet in that descent thing we do before it that we're supposed to do. Level off, nose down, power down. and shouldn't have to trim because it was trimmed before I went into this. All right, let me do a real quick one just to show you one more time exactly what we're looking to do. Wingtip, nose, wingtip, power to 15, 1 flat, pause, 2 flat, pause, 3, imaginary runway, that house. 1, 2, kill the engine, bring the nose nice and smooth up to the horizon, and hold it there. Holding it, waiting for the light, and then I'm gonna force the stall, pull back, force the stall, and shimmy, shimmy, shake, drop the nose. There's my house, full power, level off, and it's about 100 and then 200. Reduce drag, climb. Never mix the steps. Complete each one together. Once you stall, nose down back to the runway, complete it. Full power and level off. Complete, drag out, complete, climb. So many people try to add the power while the nose is coming down, and it can drastic that stall, and some funky things can happen. Maneuver's not done until you're back up, leveling out, setting your throttle, and I hand the plane back to you. Okay?
All right.
So we're gonna do a couple of those. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Wingtip, nose, wingtip.
It's clear.
Okay, power 15-ish or less, a little bit is okay. Keep pulling her back a little farther. I can hear it's still high. There we go. Hold the nose up. Flat, pause, flat, pause, flat. Drop the nose to the imaginary runway, so relax. And just that group of buildings, good enough. 1, 2, kill the engine. Bring the nose back to the horizon, trying to keep the wings level. And just the horizon, you don't need to pull it way up into the clouds. Now keep it at the horizon though. The slower it gets, the harder you have to pull. Trust me, you have to pull pretty hard. See, it's not wanting to stay up there. Get it up there. Get it up there. Hold it up there. Keep it up. If you got the light, pull harder to force the stall. There it is. Feel that shake? There it goes. Drop the nose to your imaginary runway. Where were they? There they are. Yep. So they're there. Then, full power. Level off. Reduce drag. And climb. Now you'll notice we got a full 500 out on that one. One of the main reasons is when you brought that nose up the horizon, it kept dropping below. Well, that's just a descent. It goes right into a pretty drastic descent. Also, once that light goes off, you really got to pull hard, like not rip back, but assertively get it to your chest, or else the plane does not want to stall. It's designed not to stall. So it's going to do everything in its nature. It's going to descend anything not to stall. The only way to actually break the wing angle attack is to get that elevator back. If you take too long, it just goes into a pretty good sink and you lose a ton of altitude. All right, we're back. Nose over, then power, then trim. Now, next question is, have you checked to see if your engine was running healthy yet this flight? Good. Always making sure, double checking once every 5 minutes, also including the alternator, making sure we're just not having anything weird there. Also watching our fuel. We know at an hour we want to switch. Honest truth, we're thinking about it. It looks to be pretty close, right?
Yeah.
Might as well go and switch. It doesn't have to be like 1000. If we you catch yourself going, I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and switch it? So you just throw the lever, stop that timer, switch the other one, and start it. Very good. All right, let's do this again, and we're going to try to get a little better stall with less altitude loss. Yeah. So, first step, wingtip, nose, wingtip. Okay, power down 1500-ish. Okay, white arc, yep, well in, flat, pause, flat, pause, flat. Drop to your imaginary runway. Looks good. A little pond, a little island in the pond. Yeah. 1, 2, kill the engine. Bring it back up to the horizon. And I'm talking about not the dash. Put that cowling at the horizon. Maybe I should have said that a little bit more. Yeah, where you can see the cowling now up there. Yeah. There you go. Keep it up there. There's the light. Now pull assertively. You'll feel it break. Now drop back to your island. I see the island again. Then full power and level off. Level off. Get that nose up. That's how you're going to help. Then reduce drag. And then climb. See how if you actually hold the nose up and it does do a cleaner stall. See, the plane doesn't want to stall, so it's going to fight you.
You have to force it.
You got to force it in. But if you force it too hard, it gets pretty scary. When we level off, we'll talk about what I like to call the tennis ball effect, is what I call it. It's the easiest way to explain it, really. We'll just level off first. What I find is, I know about what my finger, where 24-ish is going to be, just kind of, for me, if I have my fist here, it's the end of my thumb, it's like right there, and it just goes pretty close. So that's going to help with you setting your power. You won't need the tack as much if you find that distance. All right, let's talk about what I like to call the tennis ball effect when we're thinking about how we enter a stall. If you take a tennis ball and you throw it straight up, when it runs out of momentum or airspeed, it falls straight down. But if you take a tennis ball and you lob it, you throw it real hard and it arcs, when it runs out of momentum, it's going to still keep going, it's just going to arc slowly down. Same way when you enter a stall, if you take an airplane, use inertia and energy or your built airspeed, and you pull up too hard and it goes vertical, when it stalls, it's going to fall vertically, therefore you're going to have to tip the nose way down. Now if we bring the nose just to the horizon and hold it, that's kind of like lobbing her in. Yeah. And as long as we are assertive, not lifting it way up there into the clouds, but just there, it's lobbing in, so when it stalls out, it's just got to lob its way back out. So that's why I was saying about being assertive but not abrupt. If you rip back too fast and you get an upward momentum, it's going to create a stall that has to be into a dive, and we don't want to do that. Looks like we're headed right at the edge of their airspace. Tell you what, let's head eastbound. We'll do one more and then it's time to go in. Alright, did I say east? I meant west. Sorry about that. That was my bad.
I figured 27.
Yeah, I pointed out Wayne said east. I still got another guy, then a night flight, so I got a nice long day that's ahead of me still. Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
So, wingtip. I just start with the left. I can't tell you why. It doesn't matter which way you start with, but that's just me. Alright, next. I think it's because you're over there, so I always point that way. Power down to 15-ish. Hold the nose. Flap, pause, flap. Drop to your imaginary runway now. We're going to pick some, well, a pond in the guy's backyard. That works perfectly. 1, 2, kill the engine. Bring the nose up. Try to keep the wing steady, though. Oh, see, you're putting it way in the clouds. What did we just talk about? Yeah, just above the horizon, right there. There's the light. Now force it. Good clean stall. Nice. Drop to your, whoa. Don't push in like that. Just to your pond.
All right.
Now what? Full power and level off. That's what happens when you push down. You're just relaxing. Clean your drag up. And climb. Plenty to study and work on. Plenty of homework for the next flight.
I don't know why I pushed down more. I just...
Well, I went to stop you, and you kept pushing against me. I said, fine, and I pulled my hand away. I keep my hand here just so you don't get too drastic. And I was like, well, if he wants to go that drastic, I'll let him scare himself. So I pull my hand out. I was like, whoa!
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and level off early because we're just going to head back anyway. So we're just going to level off here. And I think we download the new checklist with the AA, with all the emergency and everything. Let's look at our checklist. So we'll get rid of that. Now we're, yep, AACC, Airport Altitude Communicate Checklist. So airport, we can use the map. I mean, we know it's to our east. Start turning to the east, but use the map to get a good aiming back towards it. Now you notice you can't see it because you can do that and get a reference, or you can just keep turning until it's in front of the airplane. See, because it's hidden here. If you turn, you already know it's east of us. So go to east and it should pop up on the top of the screen. Because you see how it's keeping what's in front of you.
Right.
That's how I like to fly a GPS map. Some people keep it square and have the plane flying across it. I just like to see what's in front of me. Makes it easier. Left and right is easier. Personal opinion. The VOR helps this tick marks around it is for a navigation aid, compass rose. But you can see the dotted blue and us, or their runways. And we know we're most likely going to land on which runway?
18 or 36.
36. So we're going to need to be at the south edge coming north.
Yep.
So when you're aiming, just aim not way out here, just right at the south of the inner core circle. All right, so that's airport. Good. Altitude. What's the altitude we want to approach the airport at? You remember?
Is it 12 or 14?
It is 1,200. 800-foot AGL is typically what we run a traffic pattern at. Ground is 400 feet. 800 plus is 1,200. So do you remember your power setting?
2,000.
2,000 for shock cooling. Remember, we pull it too low, you can super cool your engines. That'd be a bad thing. So power down, 2,000 RPMs. All right, then you just gotta let the nose drop outside. I don't know why I pointed out a gauge. Just make your gap double. It's almost doubling, but realistically, when you pull the power, it's gonna wanna drop. The same trim for cruise is the same for descent. And we're trying to hold about 500 foot per minute. That's easy on the ears. That's really the biggest thing. And also, if you try to descend too fast, the airspeed climbs. Number one, it's harder on the airframe. Two, it's harder on the engine. That's higher shock cooling probability because higher airspeed creates faster cooling across it. All right, airport, altitude, check, check. Communications, we need to call the tower. So we're gonna hit the bottom. If you hit the top, it only turns the top. That's for audio only. If you wanna turn that off, flip both. See, you have a transmit receive. That's when you click there, that's the bottom light. When you listen, is the top.
Gotcha.
It has the capability of listening only. So if you don't, you got to hit that bottom one to switch. We're on it. What do we need to tell them? Well, we need to call them at 10 miles out, right?
Yep.
The thing is, we're beyond 10.
Yeah.
So that's our 10-mile ring. So we actually don't need to communicate yet, which is fine. No communications needed. Now, the final item is the checklist. Now, before we call a checklist, we have an obstacle we have to concern ourselves with. This is more of learning your airport environment. See those smokestacks to our left? That's Alcoa. Do you see, here's the Audubon Parkway right there, and there's the Green River over there, right? Anytime you're south of Alcoa and south of the Green River, but north of this, see the red and white antenna? Just left of nose, about a mile up. Really tall red and white antenna.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, you will hit that at 1,200 feet. So when you're descending in for 1,200 feet and you see Alcoa, if you're not south of the Penny Route Parkway, you start looking for that antenna. Okay, that's just a landmark you gotta know. You know, it's a little bit past south of Alcoa, but I've seen Alcoa and I've seen the Audubon on my right. I'm like, uh-oh.
Be looking for it.
Looking for it. All right, so airport communication still not ready. Checklist. So let's go to our landing checklist and get that all squared away. So verify fuel quantity, select proper tank. We already switched. Always land on fullest tank.
Yep.
Okay, so we know that's still our fullest. Mixture set. In cross countries, we'll be leaning the plane out. All maneuvers, you leave it full rich. So we don't need to lean it rich in it, but we double check it. Final three are just, what if you haven't flown in a while? They're important items that gotta be done. Not right now, just at some point. fuel pump on in the base. So as we come around base leg, runway will be right there.
All right.
We'll make sure fuel pump's on for landing because we're getting low to the ground. We run that just as that emergency when you're within a few hundred feet of the ground, just in case, because if the engine one fails that low, you don't have time to get it on. You're kind of SOL. 80 mile an hour approach speed, reminding you to use 80 to approach the proper speed, safe speed. Full flaps all landing landing conditions. Even in high crosswinds, we'll go full flaps. Cherokee really likes it. Without them, they float real bad. So you end up zigzagging down the runway. You just want full flaps. Some books will tell you when the winds are high to reduce your flap settings. You really don't want to do that in there. I mean, you can. It just, trust me, makes for a much more difficult landing. You're better off leaving them full down because of the style they are. All right, so that looks good. We're cleared out. So let's go back to our map. We ready to call them? Oh yeah, yep. Breach and arc 10. We are shooting way south. Let's aim right at the bottom of this. Not the airspace circle, the little airport circle. I know we were off. That's how you got off. I like to repeat myself numerous times to make sure it sinks in. All right, so we left them. So we re-established Owensboro Tower, Cherokee. 6950 Whiskey's 10 out to the west. And what we want to do, we want to come in to land.
Owensboro Tower, Cherokee 6950 Whiskey. We're about 10 to your west, looking to land.
Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, Owensboro Tower, port 2 mile left base, runway 36, wind 010 at 8. Altimeter 3000.
So report 2 mile left base to 36.
Report 2 mile left base to 36, 6950 Whiskey.
But we don't have to repeat everything, just headings, altitudes, which we got neither of those, but our clearance was definitely told us to report something, so we need to repeat that, and which leg of the pattern. So our clearance was to enter the left base to 36. He included a 2 mile report, so we repeated those two things. All right, great. So we want to set up your traffic pattern should stay within a mile. That's why I'm telling you, just aim right at the bottom, because that circle isn't exactly to scale. It's just one circle, the runway drawings. Now, we do utilize the GPS, but now as we're getting closer, we need to get good with just visually finding everything. We got a water tower. You can see that up to the left, correct?
Yep.
That is just north of the airfield on the back side of the airfield. So if I look to the right of that about this far, I can see the industrial buildings that are at the airport property. And actually one of them's that National Guard or that military place right there. Got all the military trucks. That's the end of 36. The last big building. If you look too far to the right, you'll see a little water tower. We're actually aimed right at the little dinky water tower. That's past it. And almost right where we want to aim. If you aim right through there, that'll put you just off the end of 36 for your left base and the final. Okay? So now we just keep coming down. We're almost to our 12. One nice thing of being out that far when we're this new, we were a little far away to end, but it gave us more time to discuss through this, all this stuff. I try to be smart enough to anticipate all our turns, and when it's time to go in, we're right at our 10-mile mark, not 14 out. But sometimes that's hard, timing the turns out with the clock. Oh, we had a full day.
Yeah.
About a lesson and a half. Lesson and a quarter, lesson and a half. So, third flight, completing 3 of our expected lessons. That's good. Because last time we were a little under with the low ceilings.
Yeah.
But that's our goal, trying to pace it if we can. The sad part is we get it farther along, there's just nothing we can do low. Last time we could do some basic turns and whatnot, but everything we need to do now is more stalls, more steep turns, and yeah, we can't do those down here. It's got to get up.
We need to have at least 3,000 feet.
Yep, that's right.
Or 35, really.
Right, the cloud's at 35, so we can go to 3.
All right.
Now when you level off, remember, add the power, but don't bring the nose up too much. Wow. Thought my pants were vibrating. Alright, so we're still, what, about 4 out?
Yep.
Sounds good. Starting to see the runway. I can see it coming out this way. Looks like actually it is. We might need to go a little farther south. I was wrong about that little water tower. See it? I can see the white ending mark out this way. You see it?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I see I know there's a lot of silos, but I see like an open barn with a silo to the right of it.
Yeah, I see it.
I think if we go out over there, it would be pretty good. So we're going to use what we learned with all of our powering down and slow flight, and even power off stall to see if we can't get a decent landing out of this. Because that's, I mean, realistically, we're going to use a component out of each one of those, or bulk of everything, to make this work.
That's what's been foreign to me so far, is how hard you actually pull back.
Yeah.
It feels unnatural to me. I feel like I'm going to break something, but I know I'm not.
You're fighting the weight of the airplane. Airplane wants to go down. You got to lift. You got a big old engine out there you're lifting up, using that tail to rotate that engine up. All right, so now the next thing is, when do we slow down for landing? Well, it's about a mile out. We're obviously not even our 2-mile call, so it's definitely a little bit early.
Yeah.
I'd say once we get to this road with all the houses on it right there and all the trees, be about when we start slowing down. It'll be slow flight, because we are entering in the base, and that's generally when we put full flaps in. When we enter in the downwind, it changes a little bit. Each leg has its own kind of setup. All right, I think we're about 2 miles off the end, so let's give it 2-mile left base.
Owensboro Tower, Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, we're 2 miles from left base.
Cherokee 50 Whiskey, runway 36, cleared to land.
Clear to land, 6950 Whiskey.
All right, so left base, obviously, because it's going to be a left turn in.
Yep.
All right, so here we go. Power to 1500, like slow flight. Power to 15. 1 flap pause, 2 flap pause, 3 flaps. But instead of slowing to 60, we're going to slow to 80. And when you hit 80, drop the nose like a power off stall to go downhill.
Yep.
Okay, now, if you feel how we're going to sink and not make it back, this is power to altitude. So we add some power to continue the glide. Now trim. Other way.
No.
Now we're on base leg with the runway right off the end, about to turn final, so we want fuel pump on, because we're about to turn and line up. Now, to save us on taxi, we're going to land halfway down the runway. You see the number 36, right? And then the 3 lines about up, and then the big white box, and then the 2, 2, 1, 1. See those going off the sides? Go all the way down to the last one. So I want you to stay, ooh, you're going to stall us out. Pitch to airspeed.
Pitch there.
Power to get there. So we're not going to make it, right? Add some power. Pitch to airspeed, power to altitude, and that's where this works. Now, I want you to land way down there, so just add a bunch of power and fly down the runway. See, I'm talking about how there's 3 bars there, then a big fat white box, then 2, 2, 1, 1, go all the way down to the last one.
Okay.
Those are every 500 foot, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, so on and so forth. And we'll go all the way down there. That way we can save all this taxi time. We may have to taxi down there for takeoff, but we can definitely land down here. All right, good. Now we're going to go into the power off stall. So we kill the engine all the way out. Now start bringing the nose Not all the way up. See how it wants to climb?
Yeah.
Wait till you feel it coming down. Now bring it up like you're bringing it to the horizon. Remember how we bring it up? See a stall light come on. It falls to the ground. It is harder because you're trying to keep a perfect level elevation.
Whiskey, turn right on taxiway Delta, then contact ground 121.7.
So Delta, then ground.
Delta then ground, 6950 Whiskey.
All right, this is the runway. See the D sign up there for Delta.
Past the hold short.
Pass it, and then we good. We'll stop. We'll use our checklist for after landing and then ground control.
After landing. Flaps up. Repeat. On. Bump off. Strobes. Transponder standby. Dead.
Good. All right. Now we call ground control. But you want to flip over. And again, reestablish ground Cherokee 6950 Whiskey. And where are we at? We're on Delta, and we want to go to Excel. Delta taxi to Excel.
Owensboro ground, Cherokee 6950 Whiskey. We're at Delta, need to taxi to XL.
Cherokee 6950 Whiskey, Owensboro ground, taxi to XL via taxiway Charlie.
Taxiway Charlie to XL, 6950 Whiskey.
I think it's still, yep, it's recording. Alrighty, well, full day of flying. Got our full, got some turns in, got some slow flight in, got some stalls in, communications, we're just running that list long. So your homework is going to be in your maneuvers book, slow flight, each step is completely there. Power off stalls, not exactly. You do have this to go by, so you should be able to get all your steps there. I think that this will actually significantly reduce some of the hours needed. Because sometimes we just waste extra time because people can't get the, everyone has struggle memorizing. But having a video to sit there and go through, I have high hopes for that. Just, we may see, a good drop in wasted time. I call it wasted. It's not wasted time, but that time, which is great. It's money in your guys' bank account that you can use for later.
Yep. I've been watching that first video a lot.
Good. And each time we might see something different, may focus on something different, even though the same slow flight. There's so many aspects to it. I teach a lot in the pyramid, which means I'm picking some core things initially, the building blocks.
Right.
That's all we're talking about. There's a lot of other things we need to focus on, but not yet. And then as those are built, we'll add in more and we'll add in more. And then eventually, before we move out of it, we'll have almost everything kind of established. So I said each flight will kind of focus on something a little bit different that we add to it. So that'll be your homework, those two maneuvers, the steps. Try to get those steps in. And then also go to your maneuvers book and look at Evansville communications.
Okay.
Okay, really kind of read those and kind of see if you can, it's the basics. I mean, it's basically taking what you've learned so far and just adding an additional radar site that will actually focus and see us. So that'll be your homework.
All right.